Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get into today's episode, a couple of quick, really cool things to tell you about. First of all, congrats to Phil Lanzon, Uriah Heep's keyboardist and one of the primary songwriters, for finishing his book trilogy, The Evil with a Thousand Faces. All three books, the first two are available now. The third one is on pre-order. It will be available March 31st. Get your order in. On the website, scotthaskin.com, go to Uriah Heep Podcast, scroll down to Phil's section, and you will see links for all three books on Pegasus and Amazon UK. The first two books are available on Amazon US. I am waiting for that link for the third one to show up, but get your order in. That is a huge undertaking, so seriously, well done, Phil. Also, I told you guys about this on the first couple of episodes. Go to Elke's website. That is in the show notes and on my website as well. And go check out her picture. She's done a beautiful picture that spans Uriah Heep's music over the first 24 albums. There is a song to be found. A couple albums have two songs, but there is at least one song per album to be found. The answers are on her website, as well as the full picture and some zoomed in things. And she will also give you hints. So it's a very cool thing. It's a lot of fun to see if you can figure out what pictures represent what songs. And it was a great painting by Elke. So go and check that out. And now, today's episode. Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week, we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I am here with another song from the album Livin' the Dream. We are going to hit the halfway point of this album with this song number 5 out of 10, called Rocks in the Road. You know, I remember when I first interviewed Mick and I had asked him, I was thinking about songs from the 70s, like, Magician's Birthday, which is like 10 minutes, Salisbury, which is 16 minutes, and thinking, you really don't get that a lot anymore. Child in Time from Deep Purple is like 10 minutes. King Crimson and the Court of the Crimson King was like an hour and a half. And you really don't see that much these days because they're trying to consolidate songs, get there quicker, get it on the radio, not Uriah Heep, but I mean just in general in music. And so I had asked him, I said, do you really think you could get away with another song like that? And he goes, well, actually, Rocks in the Road is a pretty long song. And I didn't really realize that. And I'll tell you why. It just flows so well that I had no perception of the actual length of the song. And even when I went back and listened to it after he brought that up, it still does not feel like an 8-minute song to me. It feels really like it's 5.5, maybe 6 minutes. It just, you just don't realize the passage of time because it just kind of encapsulates you, Salisbury you do because there's so many epic parts in it. And when it's done, you're kind of exhausted just from the energy of the song. Same with Magician's Birthday, really. So but you know that those songs are a little bit longer. Honestly, with this one, I had no idea it was over 8 minutes. So I was a bit fascinated by that. And as we go through the song, see how you feel about it. Of course, breaking it up with me commenting on the song, you probably won't really get a good feel of how long the song actually is. But if you listen to the song on its own, see what you think. But honestly, it just does not feel like an 8-minute song to me. Yeah, very weird. So let's just dive right into it. Here it is, Rocks in the Road. Maybe part of it is that it doesn't have, a long build-up intro. It really just kind of jumps right in. And maybe that skewers my perception of it a little bit as well. But this is really cool. It's a great riff, and it kind of reminds me of a riff that I brought up many times from Jimi Hendrix, Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire, where I've talked about how simple that riff is, but yet it leaves open space for things to cut through. This is kind of a more progressive version of that, right? You've got a lot more technicality in it, but it still has those same open spaces where you could put other stuff in. Very straightforward on the rhythm, but the melody is really intricate, and I like that. And then there's some very nice voices that come in, unexpected. I would have expected it would pass maybe a couple more times before anything else would be added, but then it just jumps right into the vocal. It's wow, right off the bat, just a bunch of stuff has happened, and we're like, 13 seconds in. The verse is pretty interesting because it's still somewhat intricate, and I find the placement of the vocals really fascinating because they're not where you would expect them to be. As you can hear when it gets into the chorus, now they're right back on, on the normal time again. Like Graham Bonnet said when I interviewed him, you never start on the one, and that's very true. You never start your word on the one, except in very rare occasions. But here, like the timing of the vocals is just not at all what you would expect. And that makes it even more interesting on top of, an intriguing thing. You're already starting off with, hey, when the world just sucks, like right there, that's a basically intriguing first type of line. So you're going to get an interesting story. You've got interesting music. You got a great sound. And then on top of that, you got some off-timing vocal placement. So yeah, a really interesting. And then of course, going into this chorus, now we're back on where you would expect the vocals to be. So we've done a lot of shifting, and we're only 38 seconds in. I love the idea of, life throwing things at you that suck, but you're going to stand strong and rise above it. First you got to stand against it, then you got to rise above it. But, it's just more of that. We have control, we have strength, positive messages, taking that action. There's some really good messages on this album. This is a great example of what I've talked about many times on the show when it comes to panning the sound. Whether you put a sound a little more to the left or a little more to the right. If you listen to Russell's drums here as he's doing these really intricate drum fills, you can really tell the depth because you're hearing it starting in one ear, going to another as he's going from one tom to another. That's what panning is. It's saying that we want this sound a little to the left, this one a little less to the left, this one in the middle, this one a little to the right, and then you're just panning those drums as they go on, and you hear it from left to right in your ears. If I haven't given a better example of panning, that would be it. And they're really cool fills. The bass is nice and heavy through that chorus, and that really thickens things up and just gives us a lot of that low end that we're feeling in the chest when we listen to this, especially if you're listening at a pretty good volume. But it also just, moves things forward because it's going at a really good pace with the rhythm. Drums are nice and strong. I love the kick drum on this because he's hitting that one extra one that most drummers wouldn't hit. And that, again, pushes the song forward a little bit, makes it more interesting. But I love the bass drum sound on this. It's really nice and punchy on this whole album. Again, nice, thick bottom end snare. But the guitar and keyboard combo, again, just hitting that right balance that allows them both to be heard and not overlap each other, but also they're panned to give room for the vocal. And that last vocal note just carrying out, that really just, boy, that just gets me. I like the increase in the drums playing at a double time. That's really nice. Again, pushing that bass drum through, but also we get to hear the real tone of the bass guitar. Like I said, it was pretty low, filling up a lot of that bottom end, and you can really hear it in the spots between the guitars and keyboards when they're leaving that little bit of room I was talking about. And this is where, again, you can fill that space up with something else. You can leave it empty. You can do whatever you like, but it's nice to hear the bass guitar stand on its own a little bit so that we can hear just how deep and rich that tone is, because it does get a bit, the really being able to focus on exactly what it's doing gets buried a little bit behind the keyboards and the guitars, because you're really meant more to feel bass than hear it, except in Uriah Heep, where you have bass players that will do things that will, make you pay attention a little bit more to the bass than a lot of other bands do. But I really like the sound of his bass here. It's just, it's just gutty. What an amazing transition, right? From, just a good, powerful chorus into a much more powerful return to the opening riff. And then just going into this part right here with the stops and everything. It's interesting how the momentum doesn't really falter at all. You always take a chance on that. If you're going to put a stop and then start up again, that maybe, you might lose some people in that transition. But this one it just pulls you along without any hesitation. It's really nice that you hear the break, but you don't feel it. This is a really lovely part, and you wouldn't expect it in a song, where you're talking about the difficulties of life, but it's almost like as you're overcoming these difficulties, you're walking along and you just find like a little pond where you can sit and rest for a while and feel good. That's the visual equivalent I get to what's going on here in the song, because it was a pretty aggressive song up until this point. But I really like this. I love what Phil's doing on the keyboards. It just has such a lovely flow to it. And then what Davey's playing to complement that is really interesting. I love the sound of the bass here. It does contrast the sound that we heard from him earlier. It's not as, gritty. This is actually just a really nice thing. And then with Mick filling in that mid-range, just makes for a beautiful combination.
When you look for a meaning and the world that says so much to you, unspoken feelings, they will never ever pull you through. When I look to the future and the way the world will end, we have passion for each other and we will witness love again.
I know that Uriah Heep is a rock band, and a very heavy one at that, especially in these last few albums. But I do feel like we're missing an opportunity here because Bertie sings so well when he's singing gently like this. I wish we could hear more of that because I think it's great. I really do. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Ronnie James Dio in the extent that Ronnie could sing really heavy, but he could also sing very gently and have great songs doing that as well. So yeah, I would vote for more of that someday. But that's just me. I really like the heavy stuff too. I mean, obviously I'm a big fan of Uriah Heep. I'm doing a whole podcast on them, but it's nice to see this side of him too. Well, somewhere along the line, we lost Russell Gilbrook in this song, but you're not going to keep him down for too long. So it's nice that he's coming back, just adding the rhythm basically on the hi-hat. And then what Dave's playing on bass is really nice. I love the sound of his bass here. I think he's playing Warwick, I think he said. And it's just got a killer sound. We've heard several different bass tones in this song already. And I really like this part too. He's such a talented player. He's come up with some really good lines here and just playing them with a good amount of power. Even in a laid back part like this, where it's a little more gentle, I still feel a lot of power in that bass, not to where it's overriding the song. I mean, it certainly fits, but I really feel like he's hitting these strings pretty hard to get that sound. I wanted to let that whole part play out because I really didn't want to interrupt the build that we were getting here. It was just layer upon layer getting more intense. I love that bass going doon, doo, doo, doon, doon, that repeat there. It just adds a little bit of an interesting, like, where is this going? Something's about to happen. That's really cool on top of some incredible playing by Phil. But it all starts out so simple, right? It's just bass and hi-hat. Then we get Mick coming in and just being very supportive, just playing a little bit, but leaving a lot of open space. Then Phil comes in with the strings and then the organ, and it just builds from there. And then, drums start coming in. And it really, really was just a beautiful long build passage. And I that part alone, like, I could just listen to that over and over and be perfectly happy. But I'm kind of simple sometimes. And just when you think you couldn't squeeze any more power out of it, they found a way to do another few measures with the next level approach. And now it's changed into something completely different again. We're getting a different sound, and it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I really like the simplicity, yet the power in what Mick's playing. You know, he's leaving a lot of open space. Now he's turning that one note that he muted into, just letting that ring out. But it's just that da-da-da-da-da. You feel a lot of power in that, even though he's only jumping in with that. And I really like that. It's amazing how much power leaving space can have. It makes the notes that you do play feel even more important. Well, now we see what Mick was hanging on to all his energy for and laying back a little bit earlier, because that solo was just on fire. You know, between him and Phil, we're getting a masterclass in how to solo in this song. I really liked what David was playing in the background there on the bass during Mick's part 2. That was very interesting. And then, of course, just solid drumming from Russell. He's really exploded in a couple parts in the song, but he's also really just laid back and been a solid clock for this song. Really fascinating combination of where to come forward, where to back off. It's so well crafted. I think I've said that a lot on this album, haven't I? Because it's so well crafted. What a fantastic end. I love that return to the opening riff for just a brief second. You know, you don't know what we're going to get back into. And honestly, this song still does not feel like an 8-minute song to me. Granted, we have a very short opening before the lyrics come in. So there's no, long buildup, which would usually push the song a minute and a half more than it would if it just started like this. So there's that, but also the vocal sections are just so interesting and easy to flow with that they kind of go quickly. And then these instrumental sections are just so dynamic and amazing that I think I just get lost in them, and my perception of time is completely skewered because of it. That's why I can't listen to this song in the car. In fact, the only other song I've ever banned from the car was Edward Grieg's In the Hall of the Mountain King, because as that song speeds up, my foot gets heavier on the gas pedal. So I had to ban that one from the car. Yeah, great song. Such great energy, intricate parts. Love the soloing, love the support. It's like even when they're supporting, though, they still find these little moments to just come in and do something that says, hey, I'm here too. A really, really well played song. Absolutely. I think that this is one that I just feel like when they were in the studio, they were just looking at each other and smiling, enjoying playing this together. It's so tight and so precise. You just got to love it. And so that is our episode for today, guys. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Certainly, if you're listening to this in the morning, you should have the energy to get you through the rest of the day. I know that I will, even though I'm recording this in the afternoon. I hope you guys have a good one. We'll see you on the next episode. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!